Hello and welcome to APS Stamp Chat. I am Scott English, Executive Director of the American Philatelic Society. Joining me is Mr. David Sachs, presenting on the Transport Plane Series Air Post Stamps 1941 to 1944. Stamp Chats are made possible through the support of APS members in the Mighty Buck Club. Membership is $12 a year, just $1 a month. Thousands of members each year make a small contribution to the APS and the Mighty Buck Club that makes a big difference. To become a member of the APS or add your support to the Mighty Buck Club, please visit our website, stamps.org today. Our presenter is a great friend of mine, the APS, and the hobby. David Sachs is your classic Renaissance man. He's a musician, composer, real estate broker, longtime radio show host, stamp collector since he was 5 years old. For more than 7 years now, he's created the Philatelic crossword puzzles for Lynn's Stamp News. David is not only an APS Life member, but he's also the APS ambassador to the Memphis Stamp Collectors Club, one of the many APS chapters around the country. I know David as Mr. Memphis because he's a tireless advocate for the city. He also wrote 2 songs, In Memphis and One Last Bridge, adopted by the Memphis City Council as the official songs of Memphis. I could share so much more with you, but you'll see for yourself that David is a passionate and knowledgeable philatelist. David, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Scott. What a privilege. I'm choked up, blushing. Thank you so much. Well, let me get right to it. Scott, good afternoon to everyone. Good evening, wherever you happen to be throughout the world. Thank you so much for being with us. What I'm going to do today is present an overview of airmail stamps that were issued to provide a uniform series to replace similar denominations that had been in use since 1926. The United States Transport Plane Series of 1941 consisted initially of 6 different values, from 6 through 50 cents and 1 8-cent value. This new series of airmail stamps was the final stage of efforts that began in 1936 to replace a variety of older airmail stamps still in use. Differing only in color and denomination, each stamp featured an identical twin-engine airplane design. United States Transport Plane Series of 1941 consisted initially of 6 different values from 6 through 50 cents. An 8-cent value was issued in 1944 when the domestic airmail rate was raised from 6 to 8 cents per ounce. This new series of airmail stamps was the culmination of efforts beginning around 1936. All were perforated 11 by 10.5, except the booklet pane perforated 11. This is the 6-cent Carmine Scott catalog number C25, issued June the 25th, 1941 in Washington, D.C. It covered the domestic airmail service rate at that time. Prior to this series, airplanes appearing on United States stamps included the Curtis Jenny, the de Havilland DH-4M, the Ryan NYP, Spirit of St. Louis, and the Martin M130 China Clipper, which we'll see later. This is the 10-cent Violet, Scott number C27. It covered airmail service to the West Indies, Central and South America. It was first issued on August 15th, 1941 in Atlantic City, New Jersey. About 15-cent Brown Carmine. 15-cent Brown Carmine, Scott number C28, also covered airmail services to areas in the West Indies, Central and South America, and elsewhere. Its first day of issue was held in Baltimore, Maryland on August the 19th, 1941. I like this color. It's the 20-cent Bright Green. 20-cent Bright Green, Scott number C29, was intended to replace 1937's Scott number C21, also shown here, for use on transoceanic airmail. The C-29 was first issued in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania on August 27, 1941. How about the 30-cent blue? Awesome. That's a great stamp. Big margins, beautiful stamp. 30-cent blue transport planes stamp, Scott number C30, was also issued for use on transoceanic airmail. Kansas City, Missouri, its first place of issue, heralded its release on September the 25th, 1941. And here's the 50-cent orange, number C31. Like the 20-cent bright green issue, it replaced the red 1937 Trans-Pacific airmail issue, Scott number C22 of the same denomination. The 50-cent orange was first issued in St. Louis, Missouri on October 29, 1941. And finally, here's the 8-cent olive green. The 8-cent olive green, Scott number C26, was required when postage rates were increased to help finance the Second World War, and it was first issued on March 12, 1944 in Washington, D.C. It was the last stamp of the transport plane series. Let's talk a little bit about fact versus fiction with the illustration on the stamp. The airplane shown on the transport plane series is fictional. The Postal Bulletin of May 27, 1941, described the design prior to the stamp's release as a representation of a modern transport plane in flight. As we see, much of it resembles the Douglas DC-3, the most widely used airliner of its time. Now, on our stamp, we have 3 tail fins. Its tail, which consists of 3 vertical fins, is a product of the stamp designer's imagination. Moreover, it appears that the bottoms of the 2 outboard fins, or the vertical stabilizers on either side, extend well below the airplane's tail wheel. If this had been an actual airplane, the entire vertical and horizontal stabilizer section of the plane would have been ripped off the plane when the plane taxis down the runway. Here's the Lockheed Constellation. You can see the 3 vertical stabilizers adjoining the horizontal stabilizer in the tail of the fuselage. But you also see that the tricycle landing gear kept the tail very high off the ground on this particular plane. In this great cachet, America's Philatelic Societies honor the airmail series of 1941. Along with the first day ceremony for the 50-cent C31 orange, the 1941 stamps were represented on this Crosby cachet at the Worldwide Philatelic Convention in St. Louis. The 8-cent stamp had actually not been issued at that time. You can see there are some missing lozenges in the upper right corner of the cover. Here's an enlargement of the souvenir convention. All 1941 transport plane series are represented and canceled diagonally and horizontally with a Worldwide Philatelic Convention dome-type 4-bar circular date souvenir cancel, issued on October 29, 1941. Here's a close-up of the Philatelic Society's cachet. The Philatelic Societies in attendance are all represented within this beautiful Crosby cachet. All first day cities are represented. Let's take a look at the Washington, D.C. part of the cachet, which this was the location of the June 25th first day issue for the red carmine 6-cent stamp. The frame, as you notice, is in carmine red, which is the color of that stamp. The Airmail Society, in attendance for the World Philatelic Society, held their convention in August of 1941, and they're represented on the cachet on the dark violet frame, which is also the color of the 10-cent stamp, along with a picture of the China Clipper. The stamp's first day of issue was held in Atlantic City during the August convention. Also in attendance at the World Philatelic Convention was the American Philatelic Society. We see a DC-3 in flight in the Crosby cachet, framed by the 15-cent brown carmine Scott number C28, issued in Baltimore on August 19th during the APS convention, held there that year, was quite an event. It's quite an event. And the location of the first day of issue of the 20-cent green Scott number C29 was Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, on August 27th, 1941, held at the convention of the Society of Philatelic Americans. The frame and the color of the stamp features a picture of a seaplane and the date of the SPA's convention. The 30-cent blue transport plane stamp, Scott number C30, was first issued at the annual meeting of the Trans-Mississippi Philatelic Society on September 25th, 1941, in Kansas City, Missouri. The vignette is a Crosby photo of the seaplane, the Yankee Clipper. And the 50-cent orange was first issued at the Worldwide Philatelic Convention held in St. Louis, Missouri, on October 29th, 1941. The orange cachet frame, the color of Scott number C31, includes a Crosby micro picture of the Philippine Clipper seaplane. Now let's take a little look at some postal history. This is what I call Hawaii and the postage due. This great censor wartime cover was sent from Hawaii to San Francisco to Florida. Although the Trans-Pacific rate was 50 cents, the combined 3-cent postage due to make the additional 6 cents was applied for domestic delivery to Florida. Staff Sergeant Odom could not disclose his actual location, but I believe the cachet gives away the fact that he was stationed in the Hawaiian Pacific with the 106th Ordnance Medium Maintenance Company, working on warplanes at that time. Of course, APO mail was discounted for servicemen. Let's take a look at the amazing Hawaii state motto. We say that in the cachet. And I'm going to do my best to recreate the language for you. It says, Ua mau ke ia o ka ena I ka pono, which translated into English is the life of the land is perpetuated in righteousness. Ua mau ke ia o ka ena I ka pono, which you can see just at the bottom of the cachet. The cachet with the inscription of the Hawaiian state motto and examiner number 03229 and the 3-cent postage due pair adorn the cover. Here's the Army Post Office circular date stamp. The 6-cent transport plane stamp is tied to this wartime cover by the U.S. Army Post Office dome type 4-bar circular postmark the day after Christmas, December 26, 1942. The purple postage due hand stamp with the number 6, you can see with the red arrow, inscribed in pencil, announces the additional amount needed, along with a pair of light oval canceled 3-cent postage due stamps. Stamps in use since the first day of issue on April 13, 1925. 17 years in use. Now let's look at some uses on cover. Here's the 6-cent first day block of 4. The plate numbered block of 4, struck with the Washington, D.C. 4-bar circular first day postmark, is sent to Miss Pearl Kuntz. She was the postmistress of Cross County, Arkansas. She was a great stamp collector and an incredible musician, a great church organist. The Crosby thermo pictures the Alaska Clipper in the bottom left corner. The American Airmail Society Convention was the site for the first day cover ceremony for the new 10-cent transport plane airmail stamp. The single stamp is canceled with the 4-bar AAMS convention station cancel August 15, 1941. The The photo of the Yankee Clipper is the subject of the AAMS cachet. Notice also we have missing lozenges on the envelope. The border colors are missing at the upper right. And here's the 10-cent first day block of 4. Atlantic City, New Jersey, also site of the annual convention of the American Airmail Society, was the site for the first day of issue ceremony for this new 10-cent denomination block of 4, featuring the Yankee Clipper seaplane pictured below in the left. And it's also postmarked with the convention souvenir cancellation. And now we get to the American Philatelic Society's beautiful cachet. The official cachet and first day cover for the American Philatelic Society, held in Baltimore, heralds the new 15-cent brown carmine airmail issue. A DC-3 twin engine appears in the photo cachet. The official American Philatelic Society convention 4-bar circular date postmark ties the new stamp to the convention cover. And here's the FDC plate number block of 4 that was issued in Baltimore during the American Philatelic Society's convention. And it's also struck with the souvenir convention cancellation. This cachet and first day cover of the Society of Philatelic Americans, held in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, heralds the arrival of the 20-cent bright green airmail issue. The China Clipper seaplane, featured in the cachet photo, adorns this really nice cachet. Really, really nice. The official SPA circular date, August 27th, 1941, postmark franks the stamp for you. This is also another missing lozenge cover we have here. Here's the Society of Philatelic Americans block of 4. Again, it was held August 25th through August 31st in Philadelphia, PA. But you also see here we have electric eye-guided plate number block markings with the photo of the China Clipper seaplane in the cachet photo. And once again, the official convention circular date postmark is applied to the block. Now here's a neat cover. It's the FDC with the blue 30-cent transport plane issue held at the Trans-Mississippi Philatelic Society Convention in Kansas City, Missouri on September 25th, 1941. American Airlines Yankee Clipper is featured in the Crosby cachet. The official convention cancellation postmarks a stamp, and we also have missing lozenges in the upper right corner of this cover. Here's a block of 4, plate numbered block of 4, first day cover, the official Trans-Mississippi Convention circular date canceled. This also heralds the arrival of the new 30-cent blue transport plane airmail stamp on September 25th, 1941. Here's the first day cover bearing the orange 50-cent transport plane airmail stamp. It was struck with the official convention cancel at the Worldwide Philatelic Convention in St. Louis on October the 29th, 1941. Pan American Airlines Philippine Clipper seaplane is featured in the cachet. Once again, we have missing lozenges in the upper right on this envelope. Here's a block of 4. Plate number block of 4, 50-cent transport plane stamp struck at the Worldwide Philatelic Convention on October 29th, 1941, with the convention's Doan type 4-bar circular date cancel in St. Louis, Missouri, the location of the official first day ceremony. The 6-cent airmail transport plane booklet pane is a vertical strip of 3 stamps, perforated 11 horizontally and imperforated at the sides and bottom. It was issued March 18, 1943, and postmarked with a Doan 4-bar cancel in Washington, D.C. An Army post office clerk sorting mail is featured in the intaglio cachet of the Artcraft First Day cover. The domestic airmail rate was raised from 6 cents to 8 cents on March 21st, 1944, the first day of issue of the new 8-cent green transport plane airmail stamp held in Washington, D.C. James Jimmy Doolittle was born in 1896 and died in 1993, was the United States Air Force officer who electrified the world in 1942 by leading a squadron of 16 B-25 bombers on a daylight raid over Tokyo, Japan. And he's honored in this great cachet. It's an Artcraft cover, by the way. And here's the block of 4. First day of issue cancellation, Washington, D.C., March 21st, 1944. It postmarks, along with an electric eye guided block, this new 8-cent transport plane stamp. Once again, another Artcraft cachet honoring the war hero Jimmy Doolittle. The airmail rate reverted from 8 cents to 5 cents per ounce on October the 1st, 1946. The 5-cent DC-4 Skymaster stamp was issued September 25th, 1946 for the new rate. The green cachet illustrates the demonstration flight of the Flying Post Office conducted by American Airlines. The duplex October 1st, 1946, first day of rate change, and Memphis airmail field cancels the stamp. Memphis was a landing site along the historic route from Los Angeles to New York to Boston. Postal officials wondered if there was a way of taking the sorting expertise of the men riding the mail service trains and combining it with the speed of the airplane. Well, the Post Office Department worked with a few airlines to put that combination in motion, and the Flying Post Office was born. However, the Flying Post Office really didn't move beyond the experimental stage. The 5-cent stamp signaled the end of the transport plane series on this historic first day rate change aircraft. We'll take a look at the electric eye machine. I believe this is a Harris Seabold, actually. It was manufactured around 1936. It was a device that employed a beam of light to facilitate more accurate perforation of stamps during the stamp manufacturing process. And here's another view of the machine with the clerk, assembly line, someone working on the machine at that time. My guess is that this photograph was taken sometime around 1936, 1937. Here's some production numbers for you. And if you like to, you might want to snag this with a copy and paste and save it for the record. It's a neat overview of the numbers, production numbers for the stamp. We see that the 6 cent, there were 4.7 billion printed. The 8 cent, 1.7 billion, 1.7 billion. The 10 cent, 67 million. 15 cent, 78 million. The 20 cent stamp, 42 million. The 30 cent stamp, almost 60 million. And finally, the 50 cent stamp, we have 11 million printed. And also you can see corresponding descriptions to the left of each stamp. Anyway, we're all proud to be stamp collectors. Like all of you, I stand up proudly for our great nation and for our hobby. I'd like to invite you to certainly join Scott, all of us here at the American Philatelic Society. It's a magnificent organization. I'm very proud to be a part of it. I'd like to add also that I believe that the greatest airplane used for bombardier training during World War II was the AT-11 Kansan, otherwise known as the Beech-18, in production from 1937 until 1970. In this photograph, we see the men of the Army Air Force San Angelo Field in Texas in 1942 at a worship service in front of that great plane. Some of these planes are actually still flying. Again, to me, stamp collecting is love. It's a great thing to be a part of. I want to encourage you to do so. It is rewarding in more ways than I can tell you. It is certainly the world's greatest hobby. It will enrich your life. If you're not a stamp collector, let me encourage you to become one and also to join the American Philatelic Society. You will never regret it. It's one of the best things that I have ever done with my life. I'd like to thank everyone. Please visit my web pages at davidsachs.com. I'd love to have you. And I'd like to thank Scott and the American Philatelic Society for everything. Thank you so very much.
David, thank you very much. First of all, I just want to say, I thought some of the cachets you had in there were just phenomenal. It really impressed me quite a bit. You had nice diversity there and really some cool things to honor both in the hobby and in history itself. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Scott.
Just a couple of questions for you. One is, so why was the fictional plane the choice for the illustrator?
Well, the general consensus is that, well, as I mentioned earlier, there was a postal bulletin issued on May the 27th, 1941, that suggested that it would be a representation of a modern transport plane in flight. But the consensus is that the reason why the government did not portray an actual plane is to prevent a conflict of interest. That the government or the Postal Service did not want to be accused of showing some favoritism to McDonnell Douglas, to Lockheed, to Ryan, etc. So they combined the best aspects of all of the popular transport planes or military planes at the time into this image, so they would not be accused of showing favoritism to any particular aircraft manufacturer during the war effort.
So a follow-up question to that is, did the elements of the fictional plane illustration at that time of the issue resemble or combine any of the effects of modern transport planes that were actually in service?
Yes, they combined the elements of the DC-3 and apparently the Constellation, but the Constellation is said to not have come into production until about 1943. And I believe possibly the Douglas DC-4 may have been incorporated in the design as well. But as we can see from the illustration that the vertical and horizontal stabilizer would not have been possible to land a plane with such a configuration.
Okay, that's amazing. So, David, for those out there wondering what a thermographic cachet is, can you share a little bit more about that?
I can, Scott. Thermography is sometimes called a poor man's engraving. It's an inexpensive technique to simulate the look and feel of engraved cachets or stamps. We all know for an engraved stamp, you can take your thumb and rub it across the face of the stamp. You can feel the ridges, which indicate that a raised ink process has been used to produce those stamps, as opposed to lithography, where you have a flat surface or a dot matrix type print. In the thermographic process, they use a relief printing technique. A cachet is printed with slow drying ink. The cachet is then dusted with a powdered rosin, and then it's heated until the ink and the powder fuse together to give this raised effect. the finished design has this engraved kind of feeling to it, and they last forever. There was something about it, as inexpensive as it was to create something like that. They really hold up well. The two men responsible, actually, were W.G. Crosby, we saw his covers, and Walter Zobek. They used the technique in their text and in the borders of their cachets for quite some time. So it's a remarkable process, and they hold up well. And they're neat to have.
No doubt. So you mentioned electric eye plate. Can you give me a little bit more information about that?
The electric eye was a device that employed a beam of light to facilitate accurate perforation of stamps during the manufacturing process. The markings in the margins and gutters of the sheets of the stamps enabled the eye to accomplish this purpose to help it line up, help the sheet line up properly. So I suppose, it was way before the time of the laser, which of course we use now, but it got the job done. But there's actually, I wish I had the link in front of me. I would post that in chat for you. But I encourage you, absolutely everyone to read about it. There should be some fascinating articles, quite a few fascinating articles for you to review.
Okay, thank you for that. So I have one last question, and that is the 8-cent stamp that's listed in the Scott catalog is listed as a Scott C26 instead of a C31. Can you share a little bit more information about that?
That's a great question. Absolutely great question. And it's sequential. It was done as for sequential reasons. It's the best, the only explanation I can come up with. Numerical sequencing, essentially. But I'm certainly open to if anyone would like to chime in on that during the open mic session. Would love to hear from them.
Okay, well, I think that runs the gamut of questions that we have for you, David. Your presentation, David, was informative, and as always, you get me excited about stamp collecting. So thank you very much for that. Thanks to all of you who've joined us for this event live, and for all of you watching on YouTube. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the APS YouTube page for all of our future stamp chats. If you're not a member of the APS, please join today and become a part of our stamp community. For more information, visit us at stamps.org. Remember to collect stamps, and friends, introduce them to each other. Till next time, thank you very much.